Well, let's find out what Ronin versus Test are going to bring in their match, which we're going to bring you right now.
Welcome to this match, the Ronin versus Test Alliance. I am Mythical Hawk, joined here by Jin Tan to commentate this match for you. So we have some interesting setups here, especially from the Ronin, bringing dual scalpels. That's, I think, the first time we've seen those in the tournament so far, along with what looks to be AC Sleipnirs, an AC Broadsword, some Gilas at range. Jin, what do you tell us about what Test Alliance have brought instead?
Yeah, Test Alliance have brought another very interesting Logi frigate-based composition here. I don't know what it is about today, but it seems like we're just getting inundated with smaller, more fragile logistics ships, possibly as a reaction to the amount of drone comps that we see. Obviously, drone comps are incredibly good at killing the T2 cruiser logistics, but they're a lot less good at killing these deacons because they lack the control to do so. We already saw an adaptation of the comp that Vidra brought to better deal with them, but it might be that Test Alliance believe that the Ronin will be behind that meta.
Yeah, so Test choosing to bring two curses as well. Now, up against essentially capless guns on the Sleipnirs and the Broadsword, if those are nuke curses, that could be perhaps a little bit unused. If they're tracking disrupting curses, they could be quite strong in this case, especially if they decide to get right in on top of the Sleipnirs and tracking disrupt them so they can't hit the Deacons. So we'll see what they do with those curses as soon as the match starts. And the countdown is on, so we'll be underway momentarily.
Yeah, one other advantage of those curses, if they unnuke fit, is that they'll be able to turn off the hardness and, basically turn off the EHP of those scalpels and potentially even those healers if they can possibly get on top of them. So watching what those curses do is going to be very important to this match.
Immediately we see the Ronin just charging in, because this is clearly some sort of Mimitar rush comp that they're bringing here, so they are chasing down Test Alliance as fast as they can. We're seeing jams landing on one of the scalpels along with tracking disruptors on both the Sleipnirs and the Ferrex. One scalpel there, Lulu, taking a lot of damage already. It looks like he's receiving reps from David, and we'll see if they can keep up under all this pressure. Both curses on the Test Alliance team now jammed as well, so jams everywhere in this particular match.
Yeah, the Navy Harbinger of Digital has just been caught. Looks like a Hexgram and a web have now been applied to him. Meanwhile, defensive scrams are being laid out as much as possible on the Ronin. I really like this test setup in this matchup. They're going to take a lot of damage here, but the defensive control is going to be good if they can keep their Rook alive. He's just been caught. That is disastrous potentially for the test team. That's the only thing keeping a large majority of their reps off the field. And whilst they are burning down a Ferox at the same time, that's not a good trade.
No, if they lose that Rook, then the utility and the control that the Test Alliance team have brought, it's just going to drop off massively. The two Deacons right now are just going to have to spam overheat on those on that Rook and try and save him. He is dropping into structure though, he is very low. Ferrex goes down first, Rook's still alive, just barely holding on, and he is down. So that is perhaps not the best trade there for Test. Losing that Rook is going to just really hurt their control in this match.
Yeah, Ronin making clever decisions here, going for those recons. They have low tank, and the Deacons are going to struggle to keep them up. And if they do get to the ranges that they need to be able to repair them, it's going to be fairly simple for that Broadsword and those Sleipnirs to just tackle them down and keep them there. Test Alliance going for a quick kill, sniping off that damage. I think that's another good choice here. But what Test Alliance needs to do more than anything here is just try and play keep away. They can feed this curse and move on. They don't want to get involved in an extended fight here.
Yeah, I mean, the Ronin are playing it very smart. The Scalpels are sticking out at range, rushing in, doing a bit of reps, and then rushing back out again. Now, Scalpels have a very short optimal range. They have to be very careful that they don't get caught when they rush in to do to save somebody. Especially if that Moa dies so fast, I just don't think the Scalpels could get there quick enough. Now, this Gila is taking damage. He is receiving reps from one of the Scalpels, which is now chasing down the Gila. But if those curses, for example, start to newt, which they are now doing a Scalpel, they could lock him down and force him to not be able to rep at all, and then they will die very, very quickly. Gila taking a lot of damage, but he is surviving so far, as on the test side, Navy Harbinger dropping into hull. Big trade there, I think.
Yeah, the Deacons had to get in and practically on zero on that curse to save it, and they aren't going to be fast enough to burn over there to the Navy Harbinger unless they somehow have managed to bring snakes to this tournament. They're trying as best they can, though. This is going to be incredibly close just to see if the Ronin's DPS is going to be enough. If not, they might have to turn their guns on the Deacons, and that's going to be a lot more difficult for them. Meanwhile, the curses are working on those scalpels. Those scalpels do not have a large capacity to work with. They are going to pretty quickly have their reps stopped by these curses if this continues.
Yeah, both scalpels are still propping around, although David is starting to slow down, so he might be starting to really struggle with Cap. He's being muted and nosed at the moment. If one of those shuts down, you can then shoot the other one, and of course he can't receive reps. Meanwhile, the Deacon on the test side is starting to take a lot of damage. He is scrambled, he is webbed, he is muted, or nosed, I should say, but the other Deacon looks like it is jammed, so if he can if the Ronin can kill this Deacon before the other one is unjammed or gets his reps on it, that could be a massive bonus for them to just sit through the rest of the test line ships here.
I mean, even if that Deacon goes down, trading it for a healer is not worth it. I really think they need to keep up on these Navy Harbingers, these Navy BCs, and just ignore these Deacons. They're able to kill stuff through it. It's, they are, there we go, again on the curse. That's great. They've got one Deacon webbed away from it. They nearly killed it last time. The real question is, can Dante get in there close enough and start applying his reps and keep it alive for as long as possible whilst they try and burn down one of these other ships? Looks like they're going for the Sleipnir of Guaidos.
Yeah, I mean, they had that Gila originally, looked like they had him tackled, but he seems to have escaped there. So the Scalpel's still under a lot of mute pressure. We can see David, his props turning on and off as he's struggling to keep his cap up under these cursed reps, although it does look like he's pulled out of mute range and just into nose range just now, because he is no longer being muted, and his speed is up, and he is moving away and getting ready.
Yeah, the Deacon of Scoots there doing really well, just moving away from basically the things that were muting him and being able to get back into the safety. Meanwhile, looks like they've switched primaries again. The Navy Harbinger of Red Burley, that's a good choice from the Ronin, but it's going to be difficult here. There's only so much the Ronin can do now.
Yeah, I mean, the Ronin are a very, very competent team, and we saw them execute a good comp yesterday with, pretty much perfect flying, and they are kind of struggling here against Test Alliance. Now, Test, not to say anything bad about them, a good team, but I would have expected the Ronin, especially with this comp that they brought, do a lot better than they're currently doing. They are shooting that Navy Harbinger. He is getting a little bit of reps, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, and once that Navy Harbinger for Test goes down, that's a huge amount of damage off the field.
Yeah, Guaidos is just about to run out of ASB charges. He's going to go into a reload cycle, and it's going to be very difficult for him to survive for long enough to be able to reload that. The Navy Harbinger of Red Burley goes down. They might be able to lessen the DPS enough to survive, but it's going to be very, very tight here for them. Those Scalpels are going to have to put in overtime to keep it alive, and that Navy Harbinger of Red Burley is tanking in the lowest of armor. This is intense.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we saw both Scalpels there come back in to try and save that Sleipnir, but in doing so, they've put themselves back into newt range. So you can see both of them just turning and burning out, in and out and in and out, just trying to stay in rep range and then pull away so that the curse's newts either drop off or the curse is forced to start micromanaging these targets and his newts to keep them on them all the time. That Harbinger is still alive. If the Ronin can't kill this Harbinger in the next minute or so, they're going to really struggle, because this Sleipnir for Guaidos is really starting to struggle. He's dropping into mid-shield, and eventually these Scalpels are going to get capped out this close.
Yeah, what I'd really like to see from the Ronin here is I'd like them web down one of these Deacons and just go for a completely different target and just see if they can force them away. They are burning through this Navy Harbinger very, very slowly. Oh my god, it's like he's bleeding structure every now and again. He's so heavily webbed. Look, he's at 2 meters a second. He is practically stationary at this point.
Yeah, he really needs to try and get some speed up there as well and just start moving
Guaidos
around.
is breaking though.
Yeah, the Sleipnir is breaking. He's dropping to hull. The reps have stopped completely coming from the Scalpels. I think the newt pressure was just too much. We'll see. No, he's not going to be saved. He's into half hull. If they can get this the Sleipnir down, the Test Alliance might take this over the Ronin. And he's down. That is the Sleipnir for Ronin down. Test Alliance now got a pretty comfortable lead in this position. If they can save this Navy Harbinger for another 2 minutes and 27 seconds, Test could take this quite easily.
Okay, so scrap everything I said before. What the Ronin need to do now is they need to kill those Deacons. They need to kill those Deacons right away before they lose anything else. If they can't kill those Deacons at this point, they have lost the match. They've got 2 minutes to make up probably another battlecruiser kill and 2 Deacons. They are going to lose this match on points alone. This is so close, but I think Test Alliance has a significant edge now. Taking out that final Sleipnir means there's less links on the grid, less DPS on the grid, and most importantly, less tank because those Sleipnirs are incredibly tanky ships.
Yeah, and we're seeing that Navy Harbinger is back up to full armor now. So Dante and Scoots in the Deacons are the heroes of this match for Test Alliance. Their piloting just was absolutely superb. They saved that Harbinger and quite probably the entire game for Test here. One Deacon is webbed and the other one is being shot and gnaws. However, I don't think it's going to be enough. It's just too little too late as the Ronin are starting to lose one of their Gilas, which is now dropping almost into armor.
Yeah, those Scalpels are practically doing nothing. They've just been completely neutered out, and the lack of offensive control here from this offensive rush team has just killed them effectively. They didn't bring any nukes, they didn't bring any way to deal with these small logistics frigates, and it has cost them the match.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like the Ronin have enough DPS now. It's just a single Sleipnir and broadsword left. The Harpy there as well to support, but I mean, if he gets too close to some of these ships, he's going to die pretty quickly, so he has to stay at range. And it's just they don't have the damage left to burst through the repping power of these 2 Deacons. One Deacon webbed, neutered, and scrammed, but it's just like we say, too little too late. Seconds, there's no way the Ronin with a single Sleipnir and broadsword can kill either of those Deacons, and they cannot kill one of these battlecruisers under those Deacon reps.
Yeah, another upset. There's the tournament of upsets by the look of it. The Ronin came in, I believe, like something ridiculous last tournament, and they're being beat by a team that went out on the first weekend.
Yeah, what would be really amazing is we saw the heart rate monitor from one of the Tuskers pilots yesterday. I'd love to see the heart rate of Red Burly Squirrel in that Navy Harbinger as he was just living to win with half structure left, just being saved by those 2 Deacons. They really won the match for Test Alliance here. MVP for Test. Hope they get a little extra prize money, those 2 Deacon pilots.
Goddamn. Yep, as we count down here, it's going to take... Yep, I believe that's it. Test Alliance takes the match in a massive upset over the Ronin, really showing that they are forces to be reckoned with this Alliance tournament. And with that, though, we're going to take it back to the studio to break down just how Test Alliance managed to pull this off.
This program is rated MA. It contains adult themes, coarse language, sexual references, and violence.
Can I ask you kind of a weird question?
Do you want to play some spaceships with me?
Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. Slight change around here. We had Ithka who's commentating that match, as well as Reload who's been doing a bit of commentating earlier in the day. We have first for you a little instant replay from the other arena where we had Team Skill going up against, who were they against again, remind me?
I was watching the other match.
You were watching the other match. But so we got Team Skill versus their opponents. Of course, it was the Bastion. Now, if we watch the exec here, it is incredibly far away, but the Navy battlecruiser shooting it with their long-range ammo, it's burning away. If we press play on the instant replay there, it's burning away, burning away, burning away, just trying desperately to get at range. It's dropping into armor, dropping through structure, and this is the point where you assume, of course, your executor is going to die. But he keeps burning as best he can, 600, overheating his AB, going down through the bottom of structure. He's going to go down, and then he's dead. But wait, he's not in fact dead. He is in the slightest sliver of structure. We can't even see the HP on the screen there, as he just manages to pull enough range. Then he curved around, as you can see him there, positioning himself at massive transversal to these NBCs, forced to use long-range, low-tracking ammo, and he managed to regain just the slightest bit of armor in an amazing feat of piloting there from Lee Jansen of Team Skill. They did, in fact, go on to win that match, as if you're watching the German stream, you already know, 100-0. That exec survived the rest of the match. I would hope that Lee is going to post on Reddit just how many hit points he had left on that exec, because it was certainly not that many. Now, chaps, let's go back to talk about the match we just watched between Test and the Ronin. Test there, I feel, being a little bit cheeky and bringing almost exactly the same comp that the Ronin brought in their first match yesterday. The Ronin bringing another Logifrig, a Shield Logifrig comp there with Scalpels. Love seeing those Logifrig comp Ronin teams. Now we had a Logifrig comp Mirror, which gives us a lot to analyze and discuss, a lot of new data on an archetype we very rarely see. Reload, what were your thoughts on that match to begin with?
At the very start, I actually thought that the Ronin actually had this, because they killed a core DPS ship. I think they killed one of the battle cruisers pretty quickly. You know, being like a pseudo-traditional Minmatar rush, you know, got the dual Sleepers and dual Gillies, which are, you know, got really tough tank, and they do a lot of damage up close. But what I noticed is that the Test Alliance team actually were using afterburning battle cruisers because of the broadsword. So it was a bit of some meta there, I think, because, you know, even if you hit Scrum, you can still use the afterburner.
Yes, I think you obviously were casting that match. Were there any little moments, any little things you brought up? Because, I mean, bringing Logifrigs against the Ronin, a team famous for their use of Logifrigs, I mean, if anyone knows how to counter them, it's going to be the Ronin. So Test there making, I have to say, a very big gamble that unfortunately didn't pay off in the end, did it?
No, I think all 4 Logifrig pilots there are doing an absolutely spectacular job. If you watch the Ronin, you will see their Logifrigates are continuously burning in and out of newt range to try and get in, apply as much reps as they can before they get neuted, and then burning off again. As we know, the Scalpel has a very short optimal range with its reps. The Deacons, on the other hand, were just burning around. They saved that Navy Harbinger and quite easily saving Test the entire match. That was just great piloting all around by both of them, and as you say, very interesting to see 2 Logifrigs against 2 Logifrigs, and the Ronin getting bested.
I really hope we get to see more Logifrigs throughout the course of the day. I love those comp. They're so different from kind of our standard fare, and they allow such a much more open field of theory crafting. So obviously if you just stick within that T2 Logi cruiser, then you kind of build the comp sometimes around it, and it forces certain decisions, it forces certain ship choices, it forces a certain point layout to your team in many cases, whereas the Logifrigs open up a whole new world of potential team compositions and ideas if you have the pilots and the team to fight them, because obviously, as we say, they're incredibly high skill. Still, we only have 5 minutes to go before the next match, so looking forward to that. It's going to be Northern Coalition, one of the strongest teams last year, and certainly definitely going to be one of the strongest this year, going up against Shadow Cartel. Now, Shadow Cartel, kind of an interesting pass in tournament. For 2 or 3 tournaments, they looked to be on the rise. They were doing so well. They became one of those gatekeepers to the final weekends, but then they almost came to a standstill when they lost their AT team core pilots, and then last year really not performing very well at all. So it's kind of a change to see if was that a fluke year, or is Shadow Cartel just lost too much of that experience, lost too much of that institutional knowledge to be able to put forward a strong team, and it is a rough test to go up against Northern Coalition. Reload, what do you think about this matchup?
I think Shadow Cartel, they have lost a lot of experience, but you know they're regaining that experience from last year. You know, they're licking their old wounds and see if they can actually, you know, bring it back. You know, try and get the overdog that is Northern Coalition, because they're Northern Coalition right now looking really, really strong this tournament, and they were last tournament as well. So I'm hoping Shadow Cartel will maybe have an upset, but NC Dot will may have this one firmly in their hands.
Yeah, so if we look at the comps they brought in their first match, we saw NC Dot bringing a fairly standard NBC core. They didn't go with the flag. They brought in Neros, 2 Hurricane fleets, 2 Brutix navies, and 2 Harbies. That was bottomed down by a Vexa, you know, great little cruiser we're seeing come through there. Malediction and Daredevil for a bit of extra tackle. On the other side, we saw Shadow Cartel bring a Rapid Light team, which was nice to watch. I think this is fairly kind of a fairly what we might consider hopefully soon to be a standard Rapid Light team. It seems fairly what you might expect from a Rapid Light team. No tricks. That's a Scimitar, a Gila, 2 Orthrus, 2 Cerberus, 2 Osprey Navy issues, a Stork, and a Caracal. So obviously, again, no guarantee that they're going to bring the same comps. In fact, if you're in the second round, you want to bring a team that at the very least you know beats what they brought in the first round, just in case they bring it again. Ithaca, what do you think of those 2 T-comps, and based on them, who do you think might have an advantage in terms of how much you like the theory crafting of each team there?
I think, as we mentioned, NC have a wealth of knowledge and experience in AT, doing very well last year. Shadow Cartel rebuilding that, as Reload said. So I'm hoping actually that Shadow Cartel will force NC to have to bring one of their A-game comps. They can't just sit back and kind of coast on this one. This is not going to be an easy match for NC to win. I think they have to really pull something out of the bag and really force their way through this one. Shadow Cartel. Perhaps
Well,
be a gatekeeper.
let's find out what the result's going to be in NC Dot versus Shadow Cartel.